This is my studio, but it's not really. I squat in it. The room belongs to someone else who doesn't use... it's a lab, and he's a geneticist, so he doesn't need it. So I ended up squatting in it. But now it's become one of the treasures of the university. I was at Perth Tech after I'd graduated, and Nola Farmer was teaching there for the first year, I think. She came back from Canada. And she knew I was interested in embryos or fetuses and anatomical bits and pieces. But one day she said, she was going to the anatomy school here at UWA because she was, they'd asked her to do a commission. And she said, when you go in, there's a whole room full of bottled specimens, so you might want to come along. And as we walked in, there was a museum room with the bottled specimen, sort of dissected heads and limbs and all that, showing detail. But there were also quite a number of fetuses, and I thought they were stunning, absolutely amazing. I've always thought they were sort of incredible. And to me, they're the most closest thing to religion, because it's just an awesome, miraculous development, you know. So I asked, could I come in and draw? And that's where I started. I just used to come in for a day a week and draw. And someone said, can you replicate things? We've got a few models we need more of. And I thought, yeah, that'd be good. I don't mind doing that. I was really broke, because that will help me build up my casting skills. And so I started casting some of the models they had using different rubbers, which was really interesting, and I could then afford to get them, you know, to try them out. And so I did. I cast quite a number of models and painted them, which were all sort of skill-based things, which is better than going out labouring. And I think I got about $5 a week or something like that, but at least I got something.
Hans has worked in the School of Anatomy and Human Biology for nearly 50 years and has worked in a variety of roles. In 2000, his Chancellor's Medal was given in recognition for not only for his contribution to the school in helping with its teaching, but also for his contribution to the arts across campus. There are several of his works on campus. And in fact, in addition to the Chancellor's Medal, more recently, he's been made one of the treasures of the university. Hans made a whole series of connections between art and science by the work that he did in relation to anatomy dissection and medical teaching, but it's extended further than that. So other artists like John Tarry and those sort of people who are now working in other areas in art have actually come through this school as part of their training, as Hans has worked with them as they've developed their art. By developing that science and art area, it also made the school fairly receptive to new artists like the group at Symbiotica who came along and started doing biological arts. Over this long period of time, he's worked as a technician for us, which means he's actually done scientific work as well as artwork. He's created and repaired models. His ability to build structures in 3 dimensions has been really useful for the teaching of anatomy. It's been across a range of teaching and research that Hans has lent his artwork to. He's also, like a good artist, has been very variable in his form of payment, so we haven't paid him a lot over all of those years for all of his work. I think the most impressive year I had was when he was really trying to make a lot of casting models, and I think 200 kilos of plasticine was one of the payments.
Well, ArtSource is the leading membership organisation supporting visual artists here in Western Australia. The Lifetime Achievement Awards were first put together in 2009, and the idea is to really sort of celebrate the outstanding contribution, commitment and involvement of leading visual artists in Western Australia during their lifetimes. Hans was selected as one of two artists who received the inaugural award back in 2009. He was selected because he demonstrated enduring commitment, integrity and excellence in the development of his art practice over the previous 40 years. And he generously shared this knowledge with so many others, other artists, students, not only here but also internationally. An outstanding person, a real lifetime achiever. Hans has been a practicing artist since the early 1960s. And he is without doubt one of the leading artists here in Western Australia. He's had a very special relationship with the University of Western Australia, where he's been an artist in residence at the School of Anatomy. And that, coupled with his outstanding abilities as a sculptor, as a craftsperson, has really produced some amazing work in his career.
I arrived in Australia in, can't remember, 1952, at the age of 10. I had my birthday on the boat, on the passage, so I left Holland at 9. Holland was very depressed and after the war. Yeah, I think that also the propaganda that was sent to places like Holland for people to migrate, sort of land of sunshine and opportunity and a lot of land of milk and honey, all that stuff. So for my parents, it was a terrible distance from family, and family was really close. So, and coming here, migrants weren't treated all that well, especially from Europe, like British migrants were treated really well. But all the migrants from Europe went to camps. The camp we went to when we arrived in Melbourne was near Wodonga, up the border of New South Wales. And the camp was just dreadful. Like, as a kid, you don't mind. But for adults, it was an awful place. And then from there, my dad was the first one to pass his trade test in the area he worked in. So they said, you can have a present. It was a few things, and one was a trip to Fremantle. And we'd called into Fremantle on the way to Melbourne from coming through the sewers. And he liked Fremantle. So we went on another boat, came here. And we were put in a camp in Northern, and that was even worse than the one in Victoria. Oh, it's terrible. They were just asbestos sheds with no lining and just hessian bags for walls, no ceilings, and iron roof, and then the whole family in this hessian bag room, no toilets, no water. The trip across from Holland to Australia was one of the best parts of my life. I was really sad leaving Holland. I saw Holland disappear in the mist, and I was really sad, and I thought, I'm never going to see it again. And then last year, Joan and I went to Europe. We were going to go from Amsterdam to Scotland to see my friends. And we went on the boat from Amsterdam to Newcastle, because I love boats. And it was the same misty day, and when I looked, when we left Holland, it was just like the day that when I was a kid. And I remember, and I was sad. And the trip across was really, well, it was really fantastic. I really enjoyed it. And we were nearly shot in Port Said. The boat pulled up at this big jetty. It was like a big wharf of wood. And the boat pulled up to that. and then they put the gangplank stairs down. And my dad took my younger brother and I across to, there were all stalls there and sort of a village and dusty dirt roads, and it was really interesting. But when we were going back across this huge platform to the boat, halfway across, a fight started out between some sailors and the police, and they started shooting. And my dad, when they started shooting, my dad grabbed the both of us, and he ran to the boat, and the gangplank, the steps were on the side of the boat, and as he went up the first part that went like that and then like that, there were two portholes, and he shoved us in the portholes, and he ran up, and there were bullets hitting the boat, and we landed up in a bathroom. So that was really exciting. Yeah, really great trip. I think coming from Holland, wherever you go in Holland, to a cinema or a theatre or a library or a government building, they've always got lots of paintings on the wall, lots throughout all the buildings, and then this nice smell of coffee. And I loved going to, say, a government building if my mum went somewhere, and I saw all these paintings. I thought, oh, they're beautiful, really fascinating. And I said to my mum, oh, can't I do that? You know, who does that? And, you know, I want to be an artist, because she said, oh, these are done by artists. And when I said, oh, I want to be an artist, and she said, oh, you can't. It's like, you know, if you want to be a Red Indian as a kid, when you play cowboys and Indians, you have to be born an Indian. So artists have to be born artists. So I thought, well, what will I do now? At home, when the family got together on the Sunday and they'd have their gin and coffee and that, they often talked about the war, because my dad went through terrible things during the war. He was put in labour camps several times. He escaped, he went underground. He had to work for the Gestapo in The Hague, and rebuilding some of the cupboards inside of the headquarters. And he was told to do this job in a certain room and just keep facing what he was doing. If he turned around and looked elsewhere, he'd be shot. So he did whatever he was told, but he was very curious, because there was a lot of, in this one particular instance, there was a lot of people coming and going with packages and stuff in another room, and he took a big chance and went and had a squeaky look when there was no one there, and he found handguns that were imported from Russia, Russian handguns in oil paper, that they were flogging on the black market. And he swiped some, hoping that he could sell them to survive. So he nicked two. And another time, he was doing some work, and he said, this lady came and said, you stop that, I want you to come with me and do something. So he went with her to another room, and there were about 4 Hessian bags, about this big Hessian bags. And she said, I want you to cut them, tip them empty. They were too heavy for her, and anyway, he did it, but he said, he thought, oh, he'd be really take a chance and say, and he was always polite to women. He always said, yes, madam, no, madam. He still did, up until the day he died. And he said, yes, madam, and then he said, only if I can have the bags. And anyway, she said, yes, you can take the bags. So what he did was he shook the bags really hard, tipped them up and grabbed the corners like this, shook them, There's 4 bags, and in each, the bags were full of tobacco. So in each corner he had a lump of tobacco, and that was a fortune. It's sometimes hard to know what art is. Now, I think with art now, it's just because it's not skill-based, you don't learn drawing anymore, you don't learn how to really carefully model something or try and express something through skill. Now you do it through concept. Initially the idea came from that spare leg. I cast this leg that I modelled from a ligamentous leg, and took a rubber mould of it and then cast it. I had these other bits lying around, like wheels. I've got quite a few wheels at home, and lots of wings, because at one time I was putting lots of wings on everything to get things off the ground. And I thought they all sort of relate to each other somehow, about movement and about travelling. One up in the air, and one on the ground, wheel, the other one sort of running and jumping. And I thought I'll put them all together in a box or a case. And I like making fiddly things like little catches, and so I made the hinges and the catch, and then the handles. So I laminated the wood out of pine, so it's easy to cut out and fit the shapes in. And then I made the handle so you can carry it. The leg and the wing and the wheel is not going to help you get anywhere. But the idea that you've got spare parts, that's it. It's a light-hearted thing. It's not a profound, deep thing. Started building this house, I think, in about 81. But it took me 2 years. And I did have a bricklayer, a young guy, help me with the brickwork. But I did everything else. I even put in the wires, but I had an electrician show me where to put them, and then he connected it. Same with the plumbing. At the time, my wife, she cleaned all the outside bricks. I think, I don't know how many, about 20,000. So it's quite a long job. I worked on it every day, apart from one day a week I'd go to uni. And I still haven't finished, actually. There's still bits to do, and also some of the bits are starting to fall apart, so sort of never ending. But this is about the 3rd house I built, and a big studio. I've sort of been collecting ever since I was a child. I thought just everyone collects things, but I collect a lot of things at the moment, or I have been, because I hate seeing things wasted. especially, say, at uni, you know, when there's a skip and it's full of old instruments or useful pieces of wood or steel or cupboards, and I just can't stand it being wasted. So I take a lot of stuff home and then I pass a lot of it on. But sometimes, you know, sometimes you find something that is really a treasure. I mean, not to everyone, but to me. I have got a lot of stuff that's completely useless and I should get rid of it because I just have too much lying around that's no good. You know, I'm like a bowerbird, but I really need to have a clean up. I thought I might take everything out of here and buy some IKEA furniture. Well, make life a lot easier, wouldn't it? I'm going to do the same at uni. Take all the junk out and buy some IKEA furniture.